Post Malone teases a return to hip hop, and the internet is not having any parts of it. And I get it. I mean, I'm pretty sure Post Malone knew that if this was a real thing, like if he's really planning on doing hip hop, because he is putting out a double album, right? Rumored or allegedly. And this double album could be one more country, pop leaning disc. You know what I'm saying? We don't have disc anymore, but you know what I mean. And the other one being hip hop. And if that's the case, the internet is going to dissect this with reckless abandonment. He previewed a new hip hop leaning snippet with a caption that one mofo that just don't know when to leave. That's how I know that he knew the reaction he was going to get. You know what I'm saying? The caption alone tells you that he's already playing into the joke that he already knows that y'all was going to make, right? Which is that Post Malone is a culture vulture who came in, built up his fame, built up his name, built up his image on hip hop culture, and then when he got to the peak of his career, decided to jump the boat and go into more rock leaning music and then country leaning music. And honestly, I just never really believed that. Like, I never really subscribed to that whole narrative. I mean, maybe it's because I was in the minority of people who absolutely could not stand White Iverson. I thought White Iverson was the worst song. I did not like White Iverson at all. And for real, some of that early Post Malone music really wasn't for me. The Post Malone music that I did like was when I started to hear it leaning in more pop or more rock inspired. And then when he started doing more of the country stuff, once I started hearing the genre bending type music from Post Malone, that's when I really started to pay more attention to Post Malone. So, like, yes, those records were hip hop leaning, but there were so many other elements in those songs that you couldn't necessarily consider them hip hop songs. And like I said, like I wasn't the biggest Post Malone fan to start with, so I'm sure there's somebody out there that could say, "Oh, well, this Post Malone song is like textbook hip hop, and this Post Malone song is textbook hip hop." But I don't know. I'm a gambling man. I'm gonna say that I don't know if there's that many songs in Post Malone's discography that we would consider textbook hip hop to begin with. So I don't understand like the whole culture vulture angle. I just think that Post Malone came in the game making pop leaning music, and then he just started sprinkling other stuff in there. Yes, he leaned heavily into this country music run, and he's probably going to lean back into some hip hop stuff. But the interesting thing about this whole thing is that, wow, yes, I completely expected like the fans to react the way they did. I'm just not so sure if the artists are going to react the same way, especially after reading this Luminate report in AP News about the surgence of country and Latin music in streaming. Although hip hop and R&B is still the most dominant, they are losing a massive amount of market share when it comes to total album consumption to country and Latin music. And I feel as though that if Post Malone, someone who has his foot firmly planted in the country world right about now, he's on tour with Jelly Roll, he's doing his thing, but someone who has relationships in the music industry in hip hop, I don't think that the artists who you think should be mad at Post Malone are actually going to be mad. I think they're going to jump on this project if they already haven't done a record with him already. Now, like I said, hip hop and R&B is still the most streamed genre. About 1 in 4 on-demand streams across all genres in the United States. But in 2023, it actually dropped down 41% of total album consumption. And right now, mid-year 2026, it is down 30%, meaning that country music and Latin music are closing the gap. And I think that more hip-hop artists are going to be looking for ways to tap in to those pockets that have taken over some of the market share of hip-hop and R&B music streaming. And I think that going through an artist like Post Malone makes that genre-bending transition, and not even transition. Like, I'm not saying that hip-hop and R&B artists are going to, like, jump ship like Post Malone did, all right? You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is that they likely will make some records that could play into those markets. And rather than just go make those records with the hope and a dream that they'll play in those markets, you just do the record with Post Malone. And then that's more of a safer bet for it to play in there. So I don't know. I want to hear what y'all opinions are about this. I just figured that I needed to speak on this early before it really started getting saturated out there because, boy, this thing moved quick. As soon as he posted that, I mean, it was like a knee-jerk reaction, and it just started going nuts. But yeah, that's what I got with that.